Okay, so now we're gonna get into Lil Yachty and some comments that he made about how he don't like smashing no more. It's interesting. I feel like all of this stuff is kind of interrelated in some kind of way. But before we get into the commentary on this video, I do want to point out that, guys, we are in a race to 1,000 subscribers. Okay, if you see that ticker going across the bottom of the screen, this is a race to 1K. Thus far, the building of this community has been an organic experience, and we are very thankful and appreciative for that experience thus far as we continue to build. So if you like the logical content on this channel, and if you like to support logical content, and you have not done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that button so that you can get the notification whenever new content is published to this channel. Also, hit that like button and comment on this video. Comment on all of our videos because we do pay attention to comments, trolls notwithstanding. So just want to kind of put that out there. We're in a race to 1K, y'all. So, do us a solid and help us out because we certainly like to make these videos and we do this each and every week. And it's about to increase. So just be on the lookout for that stuff. Now, with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and talk about Lil Yachty. So Lil Yachty is, I call Lil Yachty a new rapper. I'm not really in the new. I know who he is because I follow the music, but I don't listen to any of his music. He's just a part of that new school, new generation of new rapper. I just can't get down with. But he's a popular guy and he has a huge following, and he's in this hip hop space and he's doing his thing out there. But what caught my attention with him is he recently made comments talking about how sex basically just doesn't even really get his juices going anymore. He talked about how he just doesn't really have any thrills. There's nothing that he gets value wise from doing the deed. He's kind of moved past it, almost as though it's almost as if he's evolved past the surface level act of having sex. So we thought that this was interesting. Again, I think that it plays into the previous topics that we talked about. I think that it's all correlated. Again, I'm not necessarily going to argue causation, but I will argue correlation. So we'll listen to this short snippet of what Lil Yachty had to say about his lack of interest in sex, and then we'll provide our comments afterwards.
Because a lot of times I don't have sex,
Mm-hmm.
and I think women probably think I'm gay. I don't care that much. It's like I think a lot of times women think if they find out to you like that, we have to have sex, or like that's on my mind.
Right.
And sometimes I just like to see what someone is like, or even if I can be around them, because I usually can't.
I think that's such an interesting concept because I think women, they think that. And then if a dude is not trying to like get in their pants 24/7, they're like, what's wrong with me? He's not into me, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, like maybe he's just not trying to be doing that 24/7.
I've just had so much sex that like it's diluted to me.
I understand that as well.
Yeah, like it's just it's not what it used to be. Like I get off more on just really laughing, like because laughing is so good to laugh, and it's a real laugh, and it's like we're laughing together.
Yeah, that describes a lot of stuff. That little clip right there.
Yes, excuse the ad play on the end of that. Free source, man, so we won't get hit with no copyright. But he got into he said it's diluted. He said sex is diluted. He's just done it so much. It's not what it used to be. It's diluted. He'll fly chicks out just to talk and laugh, apparently. So
have fun.
Yeah. So I mean, do you have any initial thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, I get it. I totally get it, especially when you're just having transactional sex. I'm pretty sure that's what he's been doing since he got on. Is having not and transactional, not in the sense that he's paying for it, literally, although he's done that too. But what I'm getting at is they want to have sex with somebody famous, and he wants to have sex with somebody he thinks looks good. And that's the transaction. We don't care about each other. We don't care about anything. Let's just exchange this. And so that gets old very fast. All right. This guy hasn't been a rock star for long. All right. He's been in the limelight for what, 6 years or so. And he's already done with it. All right. Now, granted, that's a lot of women he's had access to in those years. But still, it's a thing where when you live a whorish lifestyle, whether male or female, it gets old doing these exercises for no reason, especially when you see that the person left with a part of you, because that's kind of how you feel. You feel used. You feel like, what did I just do? What was this about? It's kind of the same feeling and the shame that one gets from masturbating. And it's like, what did I just do to myself? Eventually, yeah, eventually, at first there's a high, there's a rush, much like masturbation. And then eventually over time, you just go, man, what is this? What did I just do? And yeah, once those girls and that revolving door keeps going in and out, you actually want to laugh and carry on conversations, but they don't care about laughing or having conversations. They just want their energy exchange. Yeah, man, it sucks. So he's speaking from a place of an area where I've talked about before, where nobody who lives a whorish lifestyle, whether male or female, are not satisfied with living like that. At the end of the day, humans like compassion, and they're a communal group where they like to exchange healthy forms of energy, reciprocity. But when there's one party stealing from the next, because that's all that's going on in those type of transactional relationships, then there's a hollow feeling inside from both parties. The video with the last girl, she wanted a watch to help put a band-aid on that void. All right. But once you look at the gash, all right, no band-aid is going to cure that. So what Yachty's speaking about here is that, hey, look, man, I didn't like how I felt after all of that stuff. If you want to be around me, then be around me to be around me, not just here for, oh yeah, I'm in the green room with Lil Yachty, and yeah, bro, it gets old. So I have more to say, but how about you, sir? Do you agree with Sir Yachty, or is he slipping?
No, I don't know whether it's a matter of whether I agree or disagree with him, but I do understand, not necessarily understand because I can't personally relate to that. I'm not tired of sex. But I also don't live his kind of lifestyle either. And I get it because you're right. Like when you do certain things mechanically, there's a certain burnout factor that is associated with that. It isn't just with sex or relationships. It can be anything that you do mechanically that doesn't bring you intrinsic fulfillment. There's a lifeline on that. Eventually, the fuse is going to expire, and you're going to experience burnout. This is why people quit jobs as often as they do. No one likes being a cook. Like maybe somebody does, but by and large, when you go to work at, let's say you go to be a short order cook at Chili's or Applebee's, there's no passion in that. You're not receiving any intrinsic value from doing that, from performing that work. You're literally doing it mechanically so that you can earn a paycheck. A paycheck, mind you, that is in no way commensurate with the physical output that you give in order to receive it. And so because you're lacking in passion and intrinsic fulfillment from performing this task, there's a certain burnout factor. After about 6 months, 7 months, a year, however long it takes based upon your relative level of tolerance, you're eventually going to experience burnout and you're going to quit because you can't take it anymore. And so if he is expressing genuine feelings, then it seems as though he's reached his burnout factor when it comes to sex, because I would imagine in his particular reality, being a popular hip hop star, like you alluded to with your initial comments, even something as enjoyable and as fulfilling and pleasurable as sex can become something that is literally mechanical. And if you're doing something mechanically, you're going to experience burnout at some point. So I'll take him at his word, and if I'm taking him at his word, it's not necessarily a matter of me agreeing or disagreeing. I just understand that burnout can happen in any area of life when you commit to something mechanically. It's why women become so apathetic when it comes to meeting men, because they've gotten to a point where they give their number out mechanically. They give their social media out mechanically. They don't even care. Like, it's not even a matter of whether they even like the guy or not. It's not even a matter of whether they are interested in the guy or not. Literally, what women do nowadays is when they go out, they anticipate mechanically just giving their number out. They're not factoring or evaluating how much interest do I have in this guy? Do I want to go out with him? Do I want to communicate with him? If he calls me, would I pick the phone up? Do I actually want to text back and forth with him? They're not taking any of these things into account. They're literally committing to these behaviors mechanically, because that's just the reality that they have come up in. It's just do this mechanically. And so because they do these things mechanically, they experience burnout and they become apathetic. They become indifferent. Now, when they go out, they might have the attitude. Maybe they'll save face and they'll give you some kind of feedback that's not necessarily totally negative, but they're still doing this mechanically and they don't care because they've done it so many times that they're burnt out from the experience. And so there's no intrinsic fulfillment that they're getting from doing it. They don't even care about it anymore. And so Yachty's just experiencing that burnout. But my bigger point overall is this. You ladies out there, we talked about westernized culture. I hope women are taking heed to comments like this, because you eventually reap what you sow. And I hope you understand that guys like Lil Yachty are going to become more abundant as time progresses. There's going to be more and more men out here who just don't care about having sex with you anymore. And you need to ask yourself whether you're okay with that future. You need to ask yourself whether you're okay with that kind of reality, because this is the type of thing that yields some of the approaches to relationships that you've, acquiesced to. So think about it. Like, this might be a big picture, galaxy brain type notion. Maybe I'm reading too much into it.
Yeah,
but the way I see it is, we've talked about the disparity between sexually active men and sexually active women. Because women are essentially only making themselves available to a small percentage of men based upon certain parameters, such as income and height, for example. There's a huge swath of guys who aren't actively having sex with women because they're being disqualified from having a chance to do so. And they're being disqualified not from their own doing, but because women are disqualifying them, because they're really only making themselves exclusively available to 10 to 15, at the most 30% of the total population of men, based upon that specific set of parameters. So it stands to reason that if 100% of the women are having sex with at the most 30% of the men, you have 30% of the men who are having all the sex who are going to experience sexual burnout. And they're going to experience sexual burnout because there isn't an even distribution of sex to be had. Like, there isn't an even distribution of sex taking place. There's no math on that makes sense. There's no math on 100% to 30. There's no math on 100% of women to 30% of women. Maybe there's math on 1-to-1. There's math on 100% to 100%. There's better math. There's not as good, but still decent math on 100% to 90 or 80, or hell, even 70, 75%. But there's no math on 100% to 30%. So we've calculated this before. We've kind of traced this back to the statistical source. If I'm a guy who's in a room with 10 women and all 10 of those women are going to choose from me, I'm going to opt to have sex with all 10 of those women. And I'm not going to choose to be with just one of those 10 women because all 10 of those women want me. So the math just doesn't add up. And it stands to reason that if I have the opportunity to be sexually active with all of the women because I fit the parameters that they're seeking, then after a while, I'm going to start having sex mechanically. And if as a man, and if as a man, I'm having sex mechanically, at a certain point, I'm going to experience burnout. And you're going to be dealing with a guy who does not want to have sex with you, not because he doesn't find you attractive, but because sex, as he puts it, literally doesn't do the same thing for him as it used to. It wouldn't do the same thing for me that it used to if I'm doing it that often mechanically, and with it being devoid of intrinsic fulfillment. So, like, ladies, y'all do what you do, right? So y'all,
Yeah, they're gonna do it anyway.
yeah, y'all gonna do what y'all do. So do what you do. Only go out with a guy who's this tall, who makes this kind of money, who can afford you this kind of lifestyle. But understand the consequences that can become. Understand the consequences potentially that can be had from that. There's going to be a lot more guys out here who are just because at this point, I've talked about the involuntarily celibate dudes out here, which is a large percentage of population of men nowadays, unfortunately. Lil Yachty is voluntarily celibate. He just doesn't care about it anymore. And ladies like to get their rocks off just as much as men, if not more so. Women, receive a substantial amount of pleasure, fulfillment, satisfaction, however you want to characterize it, from sexual contact. And so imagine a world where there is a whole bunch of men who just don't want to do it anymore. And ask yourself whether you want to live in that world. And then ask yourself how some of the decisions that play into how you go about choosing men factor into that world becoming a possibility. Because I think that it very well could become a possibility.
Well, to speak on the 30% of guys smashing, the rest of the women's, and that's where we get the phenomenon of OnlyFans and tricking and stuff like that, because guys try to buy their way into it.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're lacking characteristics, from what I would argue is from a bombardment of programming towards men. So they're not doing men things. So therefore, they're casting themselves out of the smash list. So instead, money's easy to make. Changing your character is hard. So those 70% dudes are not going to change their character. They'll just pay their way out of it. So this is where you get guys doing this high level of simpery from, and it seems to be coming from all angles. Well, because it is. 70% is a large amount of people, large amount of guys that aren't having sex on a regular. So once a woman chooses you as that guy, all right, there's all kinds of words floating on the internet for that. But as soon as a woman chooses you as that guy, in her mind, she feels as though this guy gets vagina on a regular basis. There's something about this guy where I'm attracted to, blasey splees. And what makes that a thing is what I was speaking about in the previous conversation, where there's been work going on. Now, a lot of the guys that get it too, that's in that 30%, are the air quote bad boys that we've also covered. All right. I want to argue there's a large percentage of bad boys in that 30% as well. And
I think the majority of the 30% are guys who pay their way out of it. And I lump quote unquote bad boys into that, because I think quote unquote bad boys, they're bad boys in the sense that they're trying to fit a particular mold from a character standpoint. But those guys, for the most part, pay their way out of it too.
well, I would say this about bad boys. So the reason why they're attracted to the bad boys is because they're displaying masculinity. They're displaying it. And they don't have they're not complete though, which makes them bad. But they display these domineering, rough around the edges kind of thing that women want in a guy. But they're bad because, well, they're crappy kind of people at the end of the day. And so those guys, hey man, there were bad boys in elementary school, and those guys was getting all the girls. They was getting them all. The kids that was fighting, getting suspended, he was getting all the attention from all the females. I couldn't understand it. Me with my good grades. So that's why in middle school and high school I deviated from the guy who did all of the stuff that was right, and I started breaking rules on purpose, not too crazy, rules that I feel like I can break, and I would break those to get a edge about myself. Now, did it get me more attention? Yeah, somewhat. But bad boy is a lot deeper than external acts. It comes from a place of, hey man, a lot of it is they weren't raised right. They just have emotional issues, right? And so they just go about life the wrong way, kind of. All right. But I say that to say that if you so happen to be the percentage of guys who get sex enough on a regular basis, then it's a thing where you kind of have to just be grateful. I know it sounds weird, but be grateful that you're part of that, because there's something in you. And to tie into the previous, there's something in that if women see that in you, then you're doing something right. Now, you're doing it all the way right, maybe not, but you're doing something right when it comes to being a man. But the guys that grew up with this heavy, dense conditioning of video games, of apps, the Vines and Instagrams, and ways of socializing without leaving the house, I would argue that the reason why this number is growing over the year over year is not so much the women's fault. They hold their own form of accountability for this, but the guys who aren't being men. And if you take a man from 1685, all right, that's a random year, all right, 1685, and you bring his chiseled jaw, high testosterone ass around things, all right, you compare him to somebody who's obese, okay, all the Call of Duty games. I hope I ain't naming nobody in here. And then all the Call of Duty games, yeah, constantly gaming.
Come on now.
Yeah, Mountain Dew, okay. Pasty hands from touching themselves too much.
Yeah, OnlyFans subscriptions.
Okay. And you take that high T man from 1685. He's crushing this guy. He'll say Yoweth Theeth. He can't even say shit. You give him a Tinder profile. It was like, who is this guy with this chiseled jaw? Yeah, this guy's getting all the action. Now, why is that? It's that men nowadays have been conditioned. They have been conditioned. And I'm going to put a little bit of hat on. Sorry, bro. Got to put my tinfoil hat on. But when we're dealing with population control, one of the angles, this is a perfect storm for it. If you want to talk about males having lower drop sperm counts, when you want to deal with marriage and stuff like that in the crapper, there's all kinds of things that point towards, educated people having less children. People are having less children in general now. Guys aren't having sex anymore. So when you're dealing with all of these things, you have to really ask yourself, when you're plugging in these video games, or you're giving your son a video game, or you're allowing them to play, is when am I going to draw some of this in? When am I going to cut some of this off? Well, some of his friends were online, so I'm not going to cut him off from that. Well, the longer he sits on that device, the less tea he's developing. All right. So you're gonna have, you know, a child with low testosterone, no drive or build to actually go talk to the opposite sex. Bro, you remember, bro, we had the cake on the phone. We had to call people's houses, you know, and sometimes the dad would pick up. And I'm sitting here talking to girls and, you know, on the phone. You had to have game. And you had to actually speak. Now with DMs, all this impersonal stuff that's going on, people aren't developing the proper communication skills either. Granted, I can have a pen pal all the way in Shanghai right now. Okay. I couldn't did that when there was dial up or there was no internet at all. So yeah, great for us. We can communicate further than we could before, but people aren't communicating hand to hand. Their hand to hand communication is lacking. Growing up in rooms and you're only talking to people on headsets, you can talk as much crap as you want on there, but as soon as you go on streets, you're as quiet as a mouse. What kind of psychology is being developed from all of these generations of having so much access to nothingness? And now we're seeing it with all these new statistics coming out of guys having lower sex. The percentage of men that are only having sex, is getting smaller. And so these are all the manifestations of it coming to a boil. And that's why I said, so if there is a thing where it's just like, damn, that's wild. It is wild out there. But, I consider myself somebody that's like, hey, I'm on the healthy side of the equation. So it's just like, all right, well, cool. That's cool for me. But I'm still dealing with the unrealistic expectations and blase splees. So that's why I also mentioned just having your passion be your orientation. Serve up your questionnaires, because if you are genuinely looking for an authentic connection, then you can have somebody you can laugh with, like Yachty was talking about. He just wants to have a good laugh, basically saying, I want somebody to love me for me and not my status. Sorry, sir. That's not going to happen if you're only acquiring them, from entering your green rooms, DMing you, and blase splees. So, of course, there's going to be this transactional, no love type of situation. And that'll, I don't know if that'll make me, not want to have sex anymore. But I think what he's getting at, because he wants to have sex, and he does have sex, but he doesn't have sex anymore because it's boring, because it's not fulfilling. So if you are a chosen select few that's actually out here slaying it, you're like, I don't know where they're getting these numbers from, because I'm still getting mine. Well, sir, you're part of the 30. So pat yourself on the back. All right. But since you're one of those people, I don't think there's a burnout from the lack of love, from the lack of compassion. And if they're treating you as a transactional piece, so because I don't know what percentage you think of women out there are air quote modern, but I would argue is over 80. And because if there was a room of 100 women, will you get 20 women that have traditional values? I think I'd be hard pressed for that.
It depends on the kind of room.
Well, it depends on, right, where you fishing at. So, but still, nevertheless, man, I still think the percentages are low for more traditional women versus modern. And put yourself in that 20% and then start weeding out from there. So, yeah, man, it's all types of factors that play into this. But yeah, Yachty, hey, man, with his colored nails and stuff like that. I like how he tried to parlay, and I'm going off the cuff here, but I like how he liked the parlay that people thinks that he's gay because he don't want to have sex. But it's just like, bro, with the colored hair, all right, the beads, the painted fingernails.
That's just 2022 weirdo stuff.
Well, that's what I'm getting at is but what he's also promoting is low T, dude. And he's also promoting this soy-based lamery that I was speaking about. And he's a proponent of it. He's one of the founders of this
I mean,
affinity.
most of these jit rappers are. He's a dime a dozen.
Well,
You
that's what
can
I'm saying.
throw, yeah. So you can throw Uzi Vert and all those other guys in
Yeah,
that category. They're all the same.
these
Yeah,
effeminate males. And so
yeah,
who's listening to these guys? That's 70%.
yeah.
And so this guy is a reflection of, So, he probably has I was giving him credit for one thing, but who knows what, what's going on with this guy.
Yeah, but the difference is Yachty, a person in Yachty's position isn't going to be penalized for poor social skills or low T. Like it doesn't matter whether he, from a character standpoint, is lumped in with the population of these new human males who aren't, up to snuff, because socioeconomically he still is able to provide. He's basically a cheat code is what I'm trying to say. So he's like, these hip hop guys are no different than these athletes. Like you hear a lot of stories about these athletes who get sort of, they end up in these toxic situations with women, or they get cheated on, or something happens, they get a chick pregnant, now they're paying all of this child support. Like these athletes are the same as these hip hop guys in that because they found themselves in a certain economic bracket so fast before they actually matured as humans, and they never had to actually develop certain basic fundamental skills like social skills, for example, never necessarily had to learn how to be masculine. They're now thrusted into a world where they can still get women despite the fact that they lack those skills. Guys who are not a part of those environments, if you lack those skills, you ain't getting no women. Okay, there's a price to pay. You're not going to get any women if you don't have adequate social skills, and if you do not have that drive necessarily to be able to kind of get things done, sort of embrace your manhood. You're going to be penalized for not having that. These athletes and these hip hop people, they're a cheat code because they can essentially buy their way out of it, like you said. So that's the ironic thing about what he's talking about is he is a representation of it's interesting because he's a representation of yes, he is. Like he literally is a representation of the large percentage of guys who are not successful women. I'll just put it that way. Yet he himself, because he's rich and famous, can bypass all of that. And so that's the danger that's inherent in it, is he can be a representation of that percentage without being an active member of it. It's weird. But I just, and so, yeah, I just think that, it's, you don't, when you are thrusted into that world where you're a part of that economic level, you don't have to have the social skills. You can be you don't have to be the guy from 1865 or whatever year that was. You don't have to have the chiseled jaw, the oozing masculinity, the chest hair, all of that kind of stuff, swinging an axe. You're Paul Bunyan out here. Like, yeah, that guy's going to slay compared to the 70%, but he's still going to compete with hip hop guy who has the ability to be able to buy his way out of it. So we're still dealing with this sizable percentage of men who just don't have what it takes to step up, and women are noticing these things. And so and I'm not blaming women either. I lay everything at the feet of men. I think I've been pretty consistent with that. So I'm not blaming the women either. I'm just saying, hey, ladies, sit down and take 5 minutes to think about the fact that in about 20, 30 years, you're going to be living in a world where men just don't want to have sex with you. And there's something that you can do about that. There is it might not necessarily be your fault, but there is something that you can do about that. There is. Right. And so if you want to be a part of the solution, be a part of the solution. Otherwise, you're going to be a part of the problem. You won't be a source of the problem, but you will be a part of it. Because these guys running around out here, these new dudes, and all of these other guys that you want to get with because they fit this profile that you seek so much, because they're out here getting all the opportunities with all the women, eventually they're going to sex themselves out. They're going to they're going to smash the sex out of them, and they're just not even going to have the appetite for it anymore. So whether that's something that you want to be a part of is a question that you can ask yourself. But take cues from Mr. Yachty here. Um, does that frighten you? Because I'm pretty sure some of y'all walking around out here saying that there's no dude who's just going to be like, oh, I just don't want to have sex anymore. Be careful, because there very well could be plenty of them.
I think guys get, I mean, and I'll just say this, I think people get burned out, and as I mentioned earlier, is that they get burned out with, sex with nothing.
Mechanical sex, right?
Yeah.
Mechanical sex. But the point that I'm making is mechanical sex is rapidly replacing sex in the traditional sense. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, what we're getting to is a society in our Western culture in which the form of sex that is becoming more and more commonplace is mechanical transactional. Is mechanical and transactional.
I get what you're saying.
Guy who lives in a high-rise condo, in Miami in Brickell, who makes $500K, $1 million a year, who goes out and can literally have sex with a different girl every night of the week. That guy is not getting fulfillment from that. He's doing it because he can, and eventually he's going to get burned out from it, because you always get burned out from mechanical acts. It's human nature. It just is what it is. So on either side, there's ways to kind of stem the tide on this. Guys need to embrace their masculinity and all of this. Everything that you said is dead on. And that stuff is even deeper than some of the more surface level things that I'm addressing. And women just need to, evaluate how important it is to you that you hold on to this idea that every guy that you come in contact with has to fit that profile, because all of it factors into what I perceive to be a growing problem, because I do think that this is a problem.
Yeah, and I'll say one more thing. And fellas, you can buy your way out of being lame. All right, air quotes, right? You can buy yourself out of that, such as Yachty. All right. Now, if you guys, me when Yachty first came out, it's completely, I was 130% against this. But of course, everything's out of my control, right? So he blows the hell up. Now, as I'm watching him get interviewed, this guy was an absolute dweeb. All right, absolute 100%. And his way of getting into the industry was completely, manipulative, contrived, and he weaseled his way into everybody knowing his name. Now, I say this to say that Yachty is still that guy. He just has more money. And you can buy your way into this club, but one thing you can't buy is masculinity.
Yeah.
You can't buy mentality. And so that's something that has to be worked on by you. And the women that you date, them being reflections of the universe, calls out things within you. Now, I'm not talking about their gaslighting for insecurities and things like that, but you should not care about the things that them calling you insecure, or them calling you controlling, or them saying whatever, they're little mind games. Egos get bruised somewhere, and they try to tear you down by tearing down your ego. So how is a woman a reflection of the universe by that? This is me personally. I genuinely feel that our jobs down here is to live out our goals and our passion, but to also not be so attached to this place called Earth. And when your ego is constantly getting bruised by a woman and she's constantly putting it under fire, she's telling you to remove your ego from stuff. Part of growing up as a man and being evolved is to not give a damn. And if you understand what women are trying to attack in you, if you really understand those areas and you didn't have any ego in those areas, then she couldn't bruise it. She couldn't. So as much gaslighting she tries, as much blah, blah, blah she tries, this is all mentality. Instead of working on this, guys like Yachty can buy his way into an echelon of women that he couldn't get his hands on. So there's a genuine disconnect every time he deals with them. As soon as they come into his green room or hang out with him or whatever, they realize the guy is a lame. He is a little too effeminate for me. I don't like this. I still want a man. You know, I don't want a guy getting his nails painted the same time as me, you know, type of stuff. So this is why I'm saying that for fellas, work on building yourselves, work on improving your mentality, work on building your masculinity, a healthy form of it, and remove your ego from stuff. So to the point where if somebody does have something negative to say, or they do try to tear you down or whatever, they don't have a leg to stand on because you don't live on your ego or your persona of who you really are. You're living on principles, and you're living on understanding of those principles. And some people may call that wisdom. All right. So one thing a woman can't do is tear your wisdom down, but she can damn sure tear down an inflated sense of yourself that's standing on nothing. So remove your egos from stuff. Your feelings won't get hurt then when she go do her city girl stuff. You know, oh snap, I got me a city girl on the low. I ain't even know it. She out here doing all this crazy stuff. If your ego is not invested in such foolery and it's invested in your goals, let her have it. So yeah, man. So Yachty, have at it. Continue your no sex. He ain't say no fap though. So he's still out there, I'm sure, just fapping away. I'm sorry, I'll leave Yachty alone. I'll leave Yachty alone.
Yeah, he's just a new dude, you know, and yeah, I just like women know what are the intrinsic qualities that they seek in a guy. It's why these dudes never keep any of these women around. They'll get them pregnant, and all that kind of stuff, and they smash. But these chicks don't want to be with these guys. They don't. They don't want to be with any of these dudes like this because they lack in every area other than the money and the lifestyle. I'm just saying that at a certain point, the money and the lifestyle is there's going to have to be a breaking point. You're going to have to decide, you know, is the money and lifestyle worth the fact that we are essentially creating a society full of incels? And that is crazy, but that's where we're headed to. That's where we're headed. And it ain't even going to be incels with men who hate women. It'll literally be men who just genuinely just don't have a desire to even do anything with, you know, we're just, the metaverse, all this kind of stuff is reinforcing it. But yeah, it's just going to be a world where men just don't even prioritize being with women in the first place. And that shit to me is scary.
Yep. I agree.
Scary as hell. And I do think this is a representation of that. Otherwise, keep on Lil Yachty making your weirdo music with your weirdo fans, all your little jits out there. You know, y'all keep, I hope, you know, we can have a whole nother video talking about this music stuff, man. Well, we ain't gonna get it all of that, man. But good Lord, this stuff is crazy out here.
Hey, man, 2022, bro. Hey, 2023 on the way, bro.
Yeah. It's only gonna get worse for real. It's weirdo stuff going on. But either way, on that note, man, we're gonna go ahead and end this week's video. That was some fun stuff. Fun topics. All of that stuff was kind of related. I feel like it's all correlated. So definitely check that out. If you watch this video on stream, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already part of the tribe. If you watch this video as a standalone video, please like the video. Hit that subscribe button. Comment. Let us know where we went right. Let us know where we went wrong. We do pay attention and respond, although we do not respond to the trolls. You can follow the Conscious Approach page on Instagram at ConApproach, ConApproach. You can also follow me on Instagram at JVWins, JVWINS. Conscious Approach on TikTok is on the way, ironing out some kinks, trying to figure some things out. There's also the Conscious Approach page on Meta. It is still active while I am willing to continue to keep it going. So if you're watching this video on the Meta page, please share the video, comment on the video, like the video, and also follow the page because we are worth following. Once again, we are trying to get to 1K subscribers. That is the current goal. It has been an organic experience, but we look to up the ante and keep things going. So if you appreciate logical content, please follow the tribe, hit that subscribe button, like the video, comment on the video, because we certainly appreciate you supporting the channel.
Yes, sir. And the name is Dogon SS. You can find me on Instagram at Dogon_SS or on YouTube at Dogon SS. And I think since they got handles, you can look for the handle at Dogon_SS. Weird that they just forced that on you like that. But yeah, as I say everybody, don't be too high, don't be too low. Keep it calm, keep it chill, and keep it player. Much like I was talking about in our last conversation. All right. If you don't have an ego, man, you are keeping it calm. You're not being too high. You're not being too low. So keep your ego in check. Fellas, work on yourselves. It's the most important thing you can do in your life. And if you build it, they will come. All right. So if you're one of the 70%, man, and I described you with your Mountain Dew earlier, I didn't mean any slight on you. But a mirror shows a harsh side of reality, man. I'm just trying to help out, bro. And once you work on yourself, man, remember, man, you can buy anything in this world, all right? But you can't buy mentality, all right? That's something that you got to work on yourself, man. So until the next part, guys, we'll catch you guys on the flip side.
For real. And ladies, y'all know the kind of men y'all want to go after. Stop going after these beta males. And then you complain about the fact that they beta males after you get with them. How about you start going after the real guys? But perhaps a commentary for another pod. Who knows?
Yeah, we got to get into that later, man.
On that note, man, we're going to go ahead and close out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting the Conscious Approach channel. We'll catch you on the next video. We see you later. We out. Peace.
Peace.